a lawyer, a mother, a wife, a soldier, a fighter, a queen. Y'all give her a round of applause. She's going to take you further into the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Praise be to Allah. Another round of applause for that brother. You know he loves the black woman. That's the leadership that I want to be under, that well-made man. I know, that's right. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. And I also have to bear witness that, we have our Savior in our midst. Some people think that he may be dead, but he's not. And he's a lover of the black woman, and he's an advocate of the black woman. And then he raised up a man who came from his mind, came from his womb, because we look at prophets and messengers like they are mothers. And so in giving birth to this man, he gave birth to a man who loves and will die for the black woman. I know that to be true, and I can bear witness to that because of what has happened in my life and how my life has evolved because of his love for us. And that is none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I can't thank Allah enough for his intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, who came on the scene to help resurrect the people that had been destroyed, resurrect the people that they said that was nothing, resurrect the womb that was creating nothing but devils and was made other than herself. And that's none other than Master Fard Muhammad. And I greet you in the words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. So this topic, I know every time I come here, I say it's so serious and so weighty. Before I got on this rostrum, I was feeling really sick to my stomach. And sisters, you can probably bear witness to that when you take on other people's emotions, you take on other people's pain. Brothers, you may be sensitive to that as well. And you may have those physical manifestations that the other individual may have had when you tap into their psyche and their mental being and their spirit. And so, I'm not sick. I've been fasting. There's nothing ill about me. But I feel the pain of our black sisters, our sisters, the mothers of civilization. And so when I come to you, I don't want to make you sad at all. But I want to make you sober. And as this is the sacred month of Ramadan, as you heard our brother minister say, that the black woman, she is as sacred as well. And so we are taught to revere the womb of the black woman. Revere the black woman because she is sacred. We're taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if you want a righteous kingdom, you have to have a righteous woman. You can't have one without the other. And so we're talking about the valuation or the devaluation of the black female. And if you've been watching the news, watching TV, just being present and being woke, you will see the degradation of the black woman. Here in Houston, we're a hot spot. The Texas area, we're a hot spot for some reason. And within a 2-week period, we saw a little girl. Next slide, Brother Darnell. Always do my commercial. So those who are watching, those who will see this video, these are the books that we study, the teachings that we learn from, the words that give us life, the resurrections, the power, the resurrecting power that gives us life are these words, our supreme wisdom, which is so small in girth, but has so much wisdom that we cannot exhaust it. We have How to Eat to Live that teaches us how to be gods and use that physical food in order to become spiritual beings. And then we have our study guides and the Torchlight for America, that plan that the minister has given us in order for America's that last cry for America if they want to submit themselves unto God and do something different. And then we have our Savior, which is none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then his words that he's given to us, message to the black man. But if we understood how we have lost the knowledge of ourselves and who God really is. So all of these are reference books that we must study. We must study in order to show ourselves approved. So I just wanted to do that minute commercial, and we can get all of these books on thefinalcall.com. Next slide, brother. Thank you. So in the Supreme Wisdom, the original rules of instruction, number 12, the MGT and GCC, I can sit on the top of the world and tell everyone that the most beautiful nation in the wilderness of North America. But do not let me catch any sister other than herself in regards to living the life and weighing properly. So what does that mean? I know it seems like cryptic language. It's really spiritual language. As below, so above. And as followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, this, depending on where our development is, it means different things at certain times. And so as I'm reading this at this dispensation of time, you know, because you got to measure everything. Everything has its measure. Everything has its unit. And so as we are looking at what's going on with the black woman, next slide, please, we know that she is weighing other than herself. We are so burdened by what's going on with the black women in our community, with the black females in our community. We have so much pain that we are being just thrown down to the ground. And I'm not talking about literally, I'm talking about spiritually. And then when you look at us, you can see those manifestations in us physically, because we are weighing other than ourselves. We are self-medicating with food. We are self-medicating with sex, because we're trying to take away the pain or forget about the pain that we are experiencing. And so I've been experiencing the pain of these three sisters lately, tapping into them. Now, I saw what happened with, or heard what happened with our beautiful little 4-year-old sister, Malia Davis. And if you don't know what has happened to her, this little girl has been missing. Now, I'll say that she's probably dead, because if you don't find a little girl, a black little girl, within 24 hours, 99.9% of the time, this little girl is dead. But what's so tragic about this story is that she may have seen the end of her life based on someone who she was in care of. And I'm not just talking about her stepfather, I'm also talking about her mother too. So I'm talking to the mothers as well. Because mothers, we want to charge the brothers to protect us. But we as parents also must protect our children. And many of us been sexually abused. And being sexually abused, we probably went to our mothers, or our mothers had knowledge that something was going on with us. But they chose to ignore it. They chose to deny it was existing. It's the little dirty secret in our family, black family. We don't want to acknowledge that, because if we acknowledge that something is going on with our girls, then knowledge is responsibility, and we're going to have to do something about it. And doing something about it may mean leaving that man that you so-called love. It may mean leaving that man that is the supporter and the provider and the maintainer of you. That may mean leaving a man that may kill you if you leave him. But we must make Allah sufficient. So I continue to pray for this little girl. And then we have our dear sister, Pamela Turner. If you haven't been paying attention, she was down the street, shot like a dog 5 times by the Baytown police. What we do know of this beautiful sister is that she suffered from mental health issues. She was a schizophrenic. She had been diagnosed for over 20 years, but she was a functioning schizophrenic. And at this dispensation of time, she may have been having an episode. And in order for her to calm herself down, she collects trash in her apartment complex. And so the officer in her apartment complex who lived there knew her well. Because some of the criminal charges that she had was on the account of him filing those charges. And it is said that they alleged she had a warrant for her arrest. That's why he stopped her and harassed her. But truth be told, they couldn't find that warrant for her arrest. So she was, they stopped her while being black. But on this particular day, he cared nothing about this black woman at all, cared nothing about her humanity, because he knew she had mental health issues. And so he lied on her and said that she reached for his taser. And that was his rationale for killing her and shooting her and gunning her down. I saw a video clip someone sent me where minutes and hours later, after the police arrived, after the paramedics died, they just let her body just lay there in the middle of the street like they did Mike Brown's body. I mean, just no respect for the black woman. And then Sandra Bland, our sister Sandra Bland, has come to the forefront again because there was a video that resurfaced from her phone that somehow got lost in evidence. And there was a hearing on Friday, and the counsel for DPS says that they never received this video. So then how did it magically appear? And it shows that she was not a threat to the police officer as he said she was. And then on Wednesday, I had an opportunity to be on this commentating show called The Isaiah Factor. And I accepted the invitation, not watching the video of one of the guests that was going to be on the show. Her name is Sister Priscilla Clark, and I'm not here to beat up my sister because we know that she has lost the knowledge of herself and she's living a beast life. And so once she gets the knowledge of herself and realizes that we were made other than ourselves, then she would not attack the black woman. But when you make a mistake in public, we're taught, you have to get corrected in public. And so this particular sister said that Sandra Bland caused her own death. Had she not been the angry black woman, Brother Abdul, had she submitted to his authority, then she would still be alive to this day. But she did not just only say that about Sister Sandra Bland. She said that about all black women. That we don't know how to respect authority. We just angry, we belligerents, we act a fool. And so I knew at that time that, you know, when you know better, you got to do better. And I have a duty and a responsibility to help civilize the uncivilized. So after I saw her video and accepted the invitation, then I had to represent that which we have been taught in the Nation of Islam. Next slide, please. And so, as I recognize those three sisters here in the state of Texas, we have hundreds of sisters who have been killed by the police. And we're not talking about them. That's why it's important that we say their names, to recognize them and to acknowledge them, because they are victims. But how do we get here? Next slide. So we're talking about the pathology of the devaluation of the black woman. And I know those words sound, if you don't have a dictionary or, on your phone with you, we're gonna go into this. We're gonna clear this word, the pathology, all right? But, we as gods, we're scientists as well. And so Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not want ignorant women. He did not want ignorant followers. He did not want uneducated followers. And so Islam, we can prove it at no limit of time. Islam is mathematics. And so when we teach from this rostrum, we're not preaching, we're not here to make you feel good, although if that's the end result, praise be to Allah. We want to knock out the brains of falsehood, and we want to give you the truth, because the truth shall set you free. So when we talk about the pathology and the devaluation of the black woman, then we have to first start with the method that they use to devalue the black woman. Yes. And if you're not familiar with the Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave, I'm going to go through a few excerpts. Is that okay with y'all? Yes. I'm not trying to bore you, but I have to cover this foundational information because it's been missed. And we have to go into our history and understand. Now, the Willie Lynch letter, this was a speech that was given in 1710 to slave owners in Virginia. And Willie Lynch came because the slave owners were having issues with their slaves. Either they were running away, they were committing suicide, they were being killed because they were insubordinate, just being retaliatory, just rebellious. And so when we talk about slavery, we know slavery is all about what? Economics. Is that right? And slavery made good economics. But more so, the black woman made the best economics. So I'm going to read the excerpts. And it says, Willie Lynch led, I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation, which meant really big, in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still oldest methods to control slaves. Does that sound like something of modern time? Remember, this is 1712. I'm here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, that word installed, Brother Abdul, when we say installed, that means it's not there. It's something that they have to add to. So where are they installing it? They're installing it right here in our minds. It originally wasn't there, so they're planting something in our minds. He says, I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. So if we look at 300 years from 1712, that would be what? 2012. I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, and admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. That means once you teach this, they'll do it on their own. We do our job, and they'll handle the rest. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Perpetually, forever, ongoing, nonstop, ever and ever. Okay. It was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, and the slave nature in particular, with a few practical results. He says, let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black nigger man, a pregnant nigger woman, and her baby nigger boy. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse. Now, we're animals. Combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature. Are y'all listening? Whereas nature provides them with a natural capacity to take care of their offspring, we break the natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. So they're in essence teaching us not to take care of our own. He says we lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and niggers are no good to economy in the wild or natural state. I'm just reading, y'all. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. For orderly future, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or natural nigger is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so might kill you in your sleep, and you cannot rest. They sleep while you're awake, and you are awake while they are asleep. Hence, both the horse and the nigger must be broken. That is, breaking them from one form of mental life to another. Y'all hear that? Yes, ma'am. He says, keep the body, take the mind. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the nigger. Keep your eye on who? The female. Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. Y'all listening, brothers? He says, take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any signs of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract every last bit of B, I ain't gonna say the word, out of her. So he sees her as a dog. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so you will spoil good economics. When in complete submission she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. We reverse the nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping. What does he mean by this? So what he would do is he would have the strongest male figure on that plantation as an example, and he would take a horse and two horses and tie one leg on one horse, one leg on the other. He would tar, he would feather, he would get the wife, and he would get the children. And as they watched this torture of the black man, psychologically, it was affecting the black woman. And if she was pregnant, because remember, he said what? Pregnant woman. Everything that was in her mind was being infiltrated in her womb. So by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychologically dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. You heard that? So the women would become the what? The men, and the men will become what? He will become effeminate. She can't trust that he will protect her. So then she has to be the protector. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offsprings to be psychologically independent. And what have you got? You got the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. So don't be fooled about all the women leaders that we are seeing now, okay? By throwing the nigger female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the nigger male slave, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. Unless, listen, a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and the female slaves. So he even recognized that phenomenon, that intervention. And so there was a man in a book called The Story of New Race by Edwin Embry. This was written in 1931. He writes, Henty Berry, speaking in the Virginia House of Delegates in 1832, described the situation as it existed in many parts of the South at this time. He says, we have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which light may enter there, the slave mines. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. Then they would then be on a level with the beasts of the field, and we should be safe. I'm not certain that we would not do it if we could find out the process, and that on the plea of necessity. And so we already know what the process is. So you got to break the female down first. And so we're talking about a cancer that has plagued our community, that has plagued the United States of America ever since we've been on this land for 100 years. And the focal point, brothers, the reality, it has been the black woman. Because but for the black woman, she is the producer of the babies. And they knew that if she could create a baby, then that one child, and we have this now in modern day sex slavery. You can only exchange drugs one time, but you get a person and you can exchange her unlimited number of times. And that was the value and the worth as they saw us, sisters. We were not even, as Brother Abdul talked about, we were nothing but chattel property. We were inanimate objects. We didn't have any rights. And so you're talking about a cancer. Next slide. So when we talk about pathology, we have to go into understanding the condition of this disease. So we have to study the disease. And see, pathology is about understanding disease. It's about taking something that is not natural because that's what dis-ease is. It is not in its homeostasis state. It is not in its natural state. It has been denatured. Something has intervened in the immune system of that organism. And so in order to understand the pathology, you have to go into the root of that dis-ease. And so in the branch of, in the medical science of pathology, in order to study the disease, sometimes you have to surgically remove the organs, the tissue samples. You have to do tests, the biopsies on those areas that are diseased, right? Sometimes you have to do surgery, right? And then sometimes in studying that disease, you're doing it in the form of an autopsy, which means that individual has expired. So, next slide, please. So when we're studying cancer, cancer is nothing other than uncontrolled cell growth that is detrimental to the organism. So this uncontrolled cell growth is what? Satan himself. Satan himself and his ideologies and that which he has planted in our minds. And as Brother Abdul said, that they are at zero population and we can't do nothing but help and populate this earth. Be fruitful and multiply. But how are we being fruitful and multiplying when we have the mind of our enemy? We have the mind that he is installed into us, which is not the mind of God, but it is the mind of Satan. But we had a man that came on the scene that has taught us that we are not Satans, we are not devils. We have been acting other than ourselves, but in truth and reality, we are children of the Most High God. In fact, we are gods. Next slide. So in medical treatment, we're going to keep on our analogy of medicine, if that's okay with y'all. So you have the diagnosis, you have the prognosis, then you have the therapy, the surgery, and then, be the will of Allah, you have the cure or the death. And sometimes death is the cure, if you but understood. Brothers? So when we talk about a diagnosis, it's identifying the nature of the illness, speaking it as it is. We have taken on the ways and the mind of Satan. We are acting other than ourselves. And this commentary that the sister, Princella Clark, she was showing on her YouTube channel, the way she set up her argument was 5 or 6 clips showing black women fighting each other, acting belligerent, or being other than themselves. And that was her argument, that was her evidence to show that all black women, this was representative of all black women, that we were just savages in her word. You know, I can't disagree with what she showed us, but that's only a microcosm of that which is out there and what Muhammad is producing in here. We were made that way, other than ourselves. And so the prognosis is, what is the treatment in order to make the cure? So we're making a guess on what that treatment is. And so we say we want freedom, justice, and equality as black women. Is that right? So then now they let us have, rights over our bodies so we can abort the babies as much as we want to. They've given us higher education, but then our men are dumbed down. They've allowed us to be the head of the households without the men and give us feminization or being a feminist, which did nothing for us. Let's just tell the truth. That was for the white woman in her fight against the patriarchal system. So they've given the black woman some semblance of what they thought was going to make them free, but it has no substance. So I will talk about the therapy, the surgery that needs to take place, and then the ultimate cure, which will cure 100% of the time, not send us into remission, because remission means it will come back. So we don't want remission. We want 100% cure for this dis-ease of cancer. Got it? All right. So, next slide. So, I want you to walk with me with this analogy. we're going to do a case study on a 1-year-old sister who was born about 5 hours ago. No, she's not. I meant to say 5 hours. She was born 5 hours ago. And we want to look at what her life would look like. She was born with cancer. And so the doctors are going to try to do everything they can to help this beautiful little baby girl survive. And the mother, she named this beautiful sister Pamela Malia Bland. Next slide. Now, I wanted to show this demographic pie, to reflect. The visual is very profound because we see that we've spent majority of our life here in the wilderness of North America in slavery. And then on top of that, we've spent a significant time dealing with the after effects of slavery during the Jim Crow and the Black Codes era. And then the civil rights, which, very short period of time, which in effect did nothing for us, but gave us false hope and integrated us in a house that was burning. And then we are to present time, post-civil rights movement, and we are no better off than we were than when we were in slavery. So let's go through the case study of our dear, beautiful, beloved sister, Pamela Malia Bland. So, when you go to the doctor and you do an intensive workup, they always want to know about your family history. Is that right? And so we're going to look at the family history of Pamela Malia Bland's great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. And so we're looking at slavery from 1599 to 1865 and some of the things that her great-great-great-great-grandmother had to endure. So her great-great-grandmother was exposed in public. She was nude at a physical auction. They examined her to see and determine what her reproductive abilities would look like. This is what her great-great-great-great-great-grandmother had to endure. They raped her. The slave master raped her for their own sexual pleasure and for economic purposes. They deemed her a Jezebel stereotype as if she was a hyper over-sexualized black woman. Her great-great-great-great-grandmother didn't have any generational wealth. She had generational poverty. And not only did her great-great-great-great-grandmothers, but her other kinfolks there, they experienced what, this is deep for me, y'all, and I'm really feeling the pain of these women. Because the enslaved women and girls were denied their reproductive rights, the control over their bodies, many of them fought against that which was being pushed onto them, would either commit suicide or would have their own right abortions. During this time, next slide, please. You had the father of modern gynecology, James Marion Sims, and he was the former president of the American Medical Association. And this man here would enact experimentation on the slave women in order for him to do research on how to deliver a baby. He would do cesarean sections without anesthesia. He would take out these sisters' ovaries without anesthesia. And then allow the other physicians to experiment on these black women. And so our dear Pamela Bland's great-great-great-great-grandmother had to endure this. So then her great-great-great-grandmother, during the Black Codes and the Jim Crow era, she was also raped. This time she was lynched, and her kinfolks were lynched, and it was a common thing for her family to be lynched. But as a woman, when she was lynched, when her kinfolks were lynched, then not only did before the lynching she had to endure the public rapings, but before the lynching they would mutilate her genitalias. And if she was pregnant, they would strip her of her baby while in utero. So this is what our beautiful sister Pamela Malia Bland's family had to endure. Now, during this time, The stereotypes of the black woman were even ever so present, because now we had the Mamie, the ugly black fat woman that nobody wanted, so the white man could have his way with her. Then you have the Jezebel. Now you got the angry black woman, because if she's angry, then you won't give her any credibility. She's just an object. You don't want to protect her, right? If you make her other than herself. And then you had this non-consensual medical experiments to be continued on her. And one of the longest running medical experiments in the United States was the Tuskegee syphilis study of untreated syphilis of the black Negro male. This happened in 1932 to 1972. And this was enacted by our government.
That's right.
And so in it, they would recruit uneducated and poor black men, and they would inject them with this syphilis. They would not give them treatment. They would ignore their symptoms. And then the brothers would go home to their families and to their wives, and the wives will contract syphilis, and she wouldn't know what she had. And because there was no health care for her, she couldn't resolve that issue that she had. And then she would transmit that syphilis to her children. And they would have all kind of defects and mutilations. This is what our dear, beautiful sister, Pamela Malia Bland, had to endure. And so we fast forwarded, next slide, to the civil rights movement, and it was no better then. Because although we may have been publicly fighting, taking a stance, physically fighting, if you saw any of those films, they didn't mind putting the dogs and the water hoses on our black sisters, did they? They showed no mercy to the women and the children, did they not? And we saw this publicly. And although we may have had some of these watered down laws enacted on our behalf, did it help us? No. Actually, what it did is it took the black pride that we had when we started doing for ourselves. It separated us from our own black economics. And we went back into that which we came out of, being slaves and subservient to somebody else's economics. And then we talk about the Roe versus Wade. It's big news right now if you're not paying attention. The rights over women's body. Everybody's in the uproar. Ooh, ooh, ooh. But let me ask you this. What is the number one killer of black people here in the wilderness of North America? It's not crime. It's not heart disease. It's not diabetes. It's not stroke. But it's abortions. Absolutely. Since 1973 until present, 19 million black babies have been killed. 19 million. And when, go to the next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. 19 million babies. How do you get 19 million babies? How are we giving up 19 million babies? How are we consenting to these abortions in mass numbers like that? It has to be a systematic plan set up for that to even happen. And so you have what you call eugenics. Eugenics is the eugenics programs were designed in order, I'm quite sure you've heard it during the Nazi era, where they were trying to do a whole racial cleansing in order to create a race that was strong, intelligent, and non-black. And one of the proponents or eugenicists that you may be familiar with, his father was none other than Bill Gates. William Gates, his father, was a proponent of eugenics. And so the eugenics movement had the founder, Margaret Sanger. And this is nothing but, in the form of a white woman, in the form of a woman, nothing but a real-life devil. And she was the founder of Planned Parenthood. And as the founder of Planned Parenthood, she says that we do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. So she knew that she had to go to the black preachers in order to push her plan. And so when they made a decision to where the Planned Parenthood clinics were going to be, the decision was made not based on need. The decision was based on where the most minority population congregated. So if you go now into our community, you will see down the street, Brother Abdul, I believe they're still down there, Planned Parenthood. In our communities, Planned Parenthood is strategically positioned for us. Not so that we can properly plan for our family, so that we can get the necessary health care that we need, but it's set up so that we will have easy access to abort our babies. We would have easy access in order to get birth control pills. We would have easy access for non-consensual sterilization. During the Katrina hurricane storm, when the residents were trying to go back to their homes, Planned Parenthood showed up, the government showed up, FEMA showed up, and they said that we will give you money. We will give you a stipend. We will give you government subsidy. Are y'all listening? But if you got on birth control, you took the Depo-Provera shot, which stops you from having babies and all kind of other ailments that you may get, and they would not give you the money or dangle the carrot in front of you unless you submitted to their own birth control. Hillary Clinton, during her campaign, Planned Parenthood endorsed her big time. That was the first candidate they had ever endorsed. And when they endorsed her with what? $20 million. Unheard of. So you got to ask the question, why? Because there was a plan set up for the annihilation of the black man and the black woman. So then you have to ask the question, okay, we got the 19 million fetuses that would have been babies. What do you do with that? Do you burn it? Do you throw it away? No, they don't throw that away. That's valuable. That physical, dark mud, black matter, that had a lot of the melanin, the science in it. They took it and they created stem cells. They created drugs to make more drugs. They're doing experimentation. They're using your DNA. So all they're doing is recycling your body parts for economics, sisters. So when we go back to the Willie Lynch letter, the female, good economics, the pregnant female, and the youngest offspring. So they're still benefiting from what happened in 1712. Now, so we know this is a true-to-life devil, and don't be fooled by Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what. Now, the messenger, he said in How to Eat to Live, Book 1, he said he has declared that we are the true members of the nation of Islam, the righteous who shall never be removed from the earth by any foe. He says that he even laughs and plans to destroy the nation of righteous. The birth control law the enemy is preparing for you with the aid of their angels, the blind, the deaf, and dumb black preachers, and ignorant black politicians is not concerned about your future. The white priest knows what these plans will do for you. That's why they don't want the white priests in the Catholic Church. They don't want abortions. They don't believe in birth control. So you have to ask the question, why? They know the truth about the plot and the plan against the black man and the black woman. They know that Christianity has been exposed to the civilized world as nothing less than a bait to enslave the black people of the earth, the original people who served the white race as slaves. The messenger says he offers you death and the pill for your future generations of children. I shall always rise to your defense against such an artful, wicked race of people who has nothing in mind but death for the black man, its scheme covered with a semi-bait of good. Once you have swallowed the birth control pill, it is death. It's from the messenger. He saw this. He saw what was happening. He saw how these boot-licking, handkerchief-head preachers were leading us into the fire to slaughter. That's why the messenger was so hated. That's why the minister is so hated right now. Because he's pulling back the covers and the schemes and the machinations in the minds of the Satans. And we got some big Satans. And if we believe that this is spookism, then you're fooling yourself. So, yeah, it is real. And we have to look at it and be able to confront it for what it is. Because if we can't see with the reality of what's going on with wide awake eyes, then we cannot be the answer to the problem. We cannot help the problem. We'll only be the problem. Next slide. Now, the Holy Quran forbids us to have abortion, except for where there's rape and incest. And it says, and kill not your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. Surely the killing of them is wrong. He says, say, come, I will recite what your Lord has forbidden to you. Associate not with him and do good to parents and slay not your children for fear of poverty. We provide for you and for them. Sisters, all that says is make Allah sufficient. There's no better sufficiency than Allah's. Those who have more than one children and you never thought you could be able to have more than one children, whether from your womb or whether to be able to take care of them economically, but for some kind of way, you found a way to make ends meet, did you not? Yes. He always provided for you, did he not? The minister has taught us, sisters, he says, he's not going to tell you what to do with your body, but you have to understand that when you abort that baby or you take that pill, or what is the pill you take now at the drugstore, the Plan B, yeah. When you destroy that life that may be up in you, then you may be destroying that Jesus. You may be destroying that cure for cancer. You may be destroying an Abraham or a Moses. You may be destroying a Farrakhan or an Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because the new world is going to come through the womb of a mother. The womb of the black woman, the mother of civilization. Next slide, please. So yes, let's talk about that. So our minister is under attack by the Jews, if you haven't been paying attention. And us in the Nation of Islam, we are Farrakhan, are we not? We are defenders of that Christ in our midst, is that right? And so we just take truth, right? And we knock the brains out of falsehood. So here, the satanic Jews, because there are good Jews, but it's the grandmama used to say, a hit dog hollers. Yes. So when the minister gives these truths and he pulls back the covers of their ways, of their evil, wicked ways, then they start hollering. And then they want to censor what he has to say. And they don't realize that you try to cut off one head and then a million heads sprout up. And he has followers in all walks of life, whether they be Jews themselves, because he does have Jewish supporters, people in the Christian world, but especially in the Muslim world, because he is a friend of the Muslims. And in the satanic Jewish hypocrisy, they fail to acknowledge the genocide, because that's exactly what this is, that was exacted on the Ethiopian sisters in 2003 through 2013, when they forced the sisters in order to take Depo-Provera shots, or shots that would stop them from becoming pregnant, or forced sterilization. And it was false propaganda saying they were lies, but eventually one of their administrators came forward and said, yes, we were giving out birth controls, forced sterilization in order for the black women to come into our country. That is genocide. Exactly, the devils. So they want to throw the rock and hide the hand, and say that we are the anti-Semitic ones. But I don't know if that's anti-Semitic or not, but it looks like it. And that's, again, the attack on the black woman and the Hollywood and its Jewish nature. You know, how the Jews created Hollywood in the state that it is in. And when you see the image of the black woman, that is from a Jewish, satanic Jewish mind. Let's just be real about it. So when you see that the woman is being disrobed, disclosed, being abused in the music and in the visual imagery of Hollywood, then we know it didn't come from someone with a righteous mind. It came from someone with a satanic mind. So let's just call it as it is. That's anti-Semitic. But this is what our beautiful sister, baby girl, Pamela Malia Bland, has to endure. This is her history. This is her legacy. So now, as she's growing up, our beautiful sister, she has to worry about the school to prison pipeline. Statistics say that the black girls make up nearly 1/3 of the girls referred to law enforcement from the school system, and 40% of the girls arrested from this, you know, go into prison or go into some juvenile detention center. And so between the ages of 18 to 19, black girls are 4 times more likely to go to prison than a white girl. So we have to deal with the undereducation and the devaluation of the black woman in education. We talk about the criminalization of the black woman, or the new Jane Crow system, because we have the new Jim Crow system with the war on drugs that were incarcerating black men in mass quantities. But now we got all the black men, we've done everything we wanted to do, Satan himself, done everything we wanted to do mentally and physically to the black man to make him meek and mild and submissive and not at the forefront. So now it's harder to break the black woman. So now we have to focus our schemes on the black woman. And now we're going to decriminalize her. We're going to over-sexualize her as children. We're going to make her look grown, much growner than what she is. We're going to use stars and artists like Beyonce and Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, and we're going to reward them and show our girls that this is the example that you want to be as a black woman. Don't think that this is not done intentionally. We'll be fooling ourselves. So with the criminalization of the black woman, let alone in Texas alone, we've seen in 40 years a 908% increase of women in jail, in prison. That's twice that of the black man, the brothers. And if our population is 12% in the state of Texas, but we have 20%, 26% of women in prison, then you have to ask the question, is that on accident? It's not. Then we look at the suicide rates of our young sisters. We had a 10-year-old little sister who committed suicide after she had watched her white counterparts and watched these videos. And then, I believe it was a couple of weeks later, a little 18-year-old girl mimicked her. And the suicide rate for black girls has since quadrupled in the last 2 decades. Why? Because although we may act angry, but behind the anger of a black woman is hurt, is depression. We may not be sad to the physical eye, but our anger is a manifestation of the pain and the sadness that we have. So brothers, when you see that woman acting a fool, when you see her acting other than herself, you have to understand that with that is there's some pain behind there, and it's deep-rooted pain. In the employment place, black woman, we want to put her out in the forefront in front of our beautiful black brothers. But do you think that she's getting freedom and justice, equality on the on the plantation? The white man, he can make his $1. The white woman make her 80 cents to that white man's $1. But the black woman makes 63 cents to the white man's $1. She has to work 18 months in order to recoup that which the white man made in 1 year. So don't tell me there's equality in the workplace. Then on top of that, she has to watch herself. She's in fear and anxious every time she goes to work because she got to deal with the white man trying to be up underneath her clothes. Sexual harassment. She's trying to keep her job. And if she says something, then she's an angry black woman. And in the state of Texas, you can be fired for no just cause as long as it's not illegal. They say at will. So you be strong, black woman, and you be out of a job too. And it's hard being out of a job when you're taking care of a family all by yourself. When your black man is in jail in the streets or he's just with another man.
Oh, my God. Oh.
It's been made that way, brother. Nothing against y'all, but we know that it systematically has been made that way. Not only psychologically, but we use chemical warfare on you as well. Our dear brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, talks about the criminalization and the warfare behind marijuana. As a criminal lawyer, I'm seeing now that the penalties for possession of marijuana is becoming lax and lax and lax and more lax. We have all these different states who've legalized marijuana. Get on the ground level and you get your marijuana business, right? And you can make millions of dollars instantly. But to what benefit and detriment to the black man? To the effeminization of the black man. So now we talk about misogyny. Because now the black man has been taught to hate the black woman. The feminist movement. We ridicule the black man. We call him other than who he really is, and that is a God.
My God. Teach.
But we know. But we know who the black man is. That we know that he is the Khalifa. We know that he was created to maintain and sustain us. We know that he was created to further the goals and the mission of Allah. And it's going to come through the black man. But as black women, we can't help the black man if we are other than ourselves. But then brothers, black women, we suffer the most from domestic violence at the hands of y'all. 22% of the domestic violence at the hands of y'all results in death, homicides. We tripled that of white women. Why is that? Because you're in pain just like we're in pain. And when you have two broken people coming together, you can't help have nothing but brokenness. Sisters, you know how it is sometimes when your black man ain't doing right and you done said everything you could and he really not listening to you. So then you have to come with him with the spiritual word, what thus said the Lord. Because he's not going to hear from you. Or you got to go call Brother Abdul Halim. Brother Abdul, I need you to intervene in my affairs. Or you pop in the tape and you let the messenger say it or you let the minister say it. Because you can't say it like them. Well, brothers, I want to read something from the messenger. Is that okay? The messenger said, the black woman, the woman is man's field to produce his nation. If he does not keep the enemy out of his field, he won't produce a good nation. If we love our vegetable crops, we will go out and turn up the leaves on that vegetable stalk and look carefully for worms that are eating and destroying the vegetables. We will kill that worm, right? Again, we will go out into the cotton field and look for the enemies of our cotton and try to kill that enemy. We study poisons and chemicals of the earth, and we pour these chemicals on the enemies of our crops to keep the enemies from destroying them. We love a crop that we can produce every year, every season, so well that we will kill every enemy that we find seeking to destroy it. We will even kill one another if we find the other one out there trying to steal that crop. Is not your woman more valuable than that crop of corn, that crop of cotton, that crop of cabbage, potato, beans, and tomatoes, brothers? How much more valuable is your woman than these crops that you should keep the enemies from destroying the crop? Yet you are not careful about your women. You don't love them. Why? It is because you have allowed the visitors to run in and out of your house. Thus, they have destroyed your love for your woman, and your woman has not the love for you that she should. That is a good sign. Until we learn to love and protect our women, we will never be a fit and recognized people on the earth. The white people here among you will never recognize you until you protect your woman. Never. He says, finally, my beloved brothers in America, you have lost the respect for your woman, and therefore you have lost the respect for yourself. You won't protect her, therefore you can't protect yourself. She is your first nurse. She is your teacher. Your first lesson comes from your mother. If you don't protect your mother, how do you think you look in the eyes of the other fellow human beings? Next slide. So I lead with that, brothers, because we've seen these killings, this violence against black women and black girls. And we've had the luxury of having social media and being in present time to watch it live and what's happening. But the reality is, no one is breaking up these fights. No one is stopping this from happening. And it's typically a brother in the back recording this. Our dear beloved sister, Pamela Turner. You hear the man, the brother in the back. He's in hiding right now. Is he in hiding because he's afraid what the white man may do to him or what we may do to him? The messenger said, you can't protect yourself. So if national defense is defense of the family and defense of the black woman, then how can we have a nation rise and grow, brothers? We can't. Are y'all nation builders? Yes. Then how are we going to build a nation without the foundation? How are we going to do that if we allow the enemy to destroy our black women and our girls? We let our little girls, I think about our dear beautiful sister Malia Davis. The mother knew. The mother knew that she was being sexually abused. She had a biological father. But when she went on that trip to bury her father, she didn't take her child. She left her in harm's way of a man who was abusing her daughter. When they did an investigation looking for her, and they went into the bathroom, and they took apart the sink, and they found human tissue remains. Yes, they're not talking about that in the media. So, I mean, we're smart. We can make a deduction. They see a videotape of this man leaving the apartment with the basket. She's not leaving with him. They find the car with the same basket in the gas tank. But the reality is our own. And we can talk about someone, talk about the white man, but the responsibility really is with ourselves. Charity starts at home. Brothers, we need you to protect us. We need you to intervene. I'm telling you, there's no greater feeling for me as a black woman when my husband sees something that ain't right, and he says, get back, I got it. And I'm like, okay. Or when something happens with his daughters, and he's intervening. We have to get back to that mentality. Because it's not just the black woman, it's what she represents. What she represents for you, a new civilization. Again, that womb that she has is created like the universe. And so what we plant in that garden, brother, that you're going to be protecting is what you're going to get out of it. But if you allow the enemy to come in and choke up the life that's in that garden, in the produce, then you'll only get death back from her. And it's not nourishing to the soul. You'll starve to death. Do you want to starve to death? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that heaven lies at the foot of mother. Do you not want heaven? Because see, with heaven comes peace, peace of mind. The hereafter, meaning now, not the hell after, or the hell now, or the hell no. But you want that peace. Right now. So when you are protecting this woman, when you are sustaining and maintaining her spiritually, mentally, physically, turning over those leaves, something that makes her off balance, putting her out there in the plantation where the enemy is coming after your wife, after your significant others, and you remove her and you create and do for yourself, create a business, you get off the plantation. This woman, she's frustrated. She's frustrated because she sees she wants to believe in you. She wants to feel protected. But when she sees you cow for the white man, or you work hard and you put all your creative energy on his plantation, but you do nothing to create for your own nation, she feels some kind of way about it, brothers. But then you were made to dishonor her. But if you but understood who this black woman is and the value she has. My daughter, Mother's Day 2 weeks ago, and she's been on this road asking all the brothers, what's more valuable than silver or gold? And she says, mother, mother, mother. She knows that. And I didn't teach her that. The school taught her that. The Elevated Places was teaching her that. I automatically assumed she knew that. But when we look at the dollar that we have right now, it's worth nothing because it's backed by nothing. Now, our beautiful beloved sister, Pamela Malia Bland. Fast forward, she's no longer Pamela Malia Bland. She's now Pamela Muhammad. And after taking her therapy, and after the surgery, and what is that therapy? Well, her mother was wise enough to join the Nation of Islam. And her joining the Nation of Islam, her mother entered a class of the gods. And this class taught civilization to the broke, downtrodden black woman. And her mother had enough spirituality in her and was so broken that she knew that she had to go somewhere to get help. And this beautiful black mother saw the minister one day on a videotape as she was scrolling down her social media. And his words penetrated her soul that she wanted to go hear more about the black woman. And she entered the class of the MGT&GCC, Muslim Girl Training and General Civilization class. This class was set up by the God himself to teach us how to take care of our homes and take care of our husbands, how to sew, how to cook, how to rear our children, and how to act at home and abroad. But not in the infantile state, but in a God-like manner and a science-like manner, teaching us as if we are scientists, teaching us as if we are gods. As Brother Abdul talked about, the science of the food. How do I feed you, brothers? How do we feed you, brothers, so that your mind can think right? How do we get you off of that medication that the enemy puts you on and trying to dumb you down? How do we clothe our daughters so that the enemy will not creep in and try to touch her and take away from her virtue that she'll never be able to get back? We taught how to be soldiers, vanguards. We can go anywhere in the world and represent and be respected. Somebody say something happened to an MGT, brothers all stand up and they go after whoever it is, whether it's true or not, because they know how valuable this MGT is. And so our dear sister Pamela Muhammad's mother joined the ranks. And then she found her a beautiful, well-made man in the shape of a fruit of Islam brother who'd been taught and trained by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan, and who understood who they are and have the knowledge of themselves and is not living the beast life. So now she can go back to her true nature. And as she's turning around to teach and train her beautiful daughter, Pamela Muhammad, because she took on the name Muhammad after she got married. She had a whole new name and a whole new life. Her mindset that she had, that the enemy tried to install and create, was knocked out. And what was replaced was who she naturally is. The second self of God. The best part of God. The co-creator with God. And she follows under the authority and the submission of Allah and his servants. And so when she listens to the Christ in our midst, Minister Louis Farrakhan, she loves that black man. But why does she love that black man? Our beautiful little sister Pamela Muhammad. Because she knows that black man loves her back. And that he has given his life for her protection. He has given his life to uplift the black woman. He has given his life to make sure that she remains sacred. And he has given his life to build this nation, knowing that she is at the forefront. And that 75% of his mission and his work was with her, the black woman. So we thank Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his teachings. And we thank Allah for a man who was born from a woman who had trial and tribulation, but knew enough to hold on to that baby that she had. And to pray, and to pray, and to pray, and to pray. And in her prayers as a mother, that which went into her womb, she created a Savior for us. She created a Christ who came to save us. To save you, black man. To save you, black woman. You are not going to find no one on this planet like this man. Because he was directly taught from God. His revelations are directly from God. He doesn't need an intercessory because he gets it from God. That's why he's under attack. And we have a duty and a responsibility to go where he tells us to go and stay away from where he tells us to stay away from. And we have a duty and a responsibility to fight for that which has given us life and defended us. Because everyone in this room, I know, he's done something for us. That spark of life where we was once dead. And we are still trying to perfect ourselves. It's a process. But we have to start with the woman. We want a strong nation. We have to have a strong woman. So I just want to say, I thank Allah for this dispensation of time, that we do see the black woman on the rise. We do see her at the forefront. But brothers, we cannot be at the forefront without seeing you at the forefront. Come on. Come on. There's no us without you. We need you. We need your protection. We need for you to maintain us and sustain us so that we can be who we are in God's sight, to help bring a civilization that reflects you, black man. So I just want to thank you for these beautiful, beautiful moments and time that I've had with you. And I just pray to Allah that some part of this has uplifted you, and to know that the cure is in the medicine. And that medicine is none other than following the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, listening to his servant in our midst, and being the gods that we are. So I thank you and I greet you as I came before you. Assalamu alaikum.